Well, hello everyone. My name is Chen Kaiyang. I'm happy to be here to talk about my Flink project. I'm talk about what is Flink, the goal of my Flink project, and the whole architecture of my Flink project. So let's start by what is Flink. As you may know, Flink is a big data framework for real-time processing, which can be applied to various real-time cases, such as real-time log processing, anti-fraud identification in some financial cases. Well, Flink also provides layered APIs such as the Flink Circle, Flink Machine Learning, Core API, and the Stateful API. Well, in my project, I use the Flink Circle to solve the problems. Next, I will talk about the goal of my Flink project. Well, in my company, we use Spring Cloud microservice architecture to build a whole website, which means that there are hundreds of the microservice interface. So here is the problem. When there is something wrong with one interface, like there is a bug in that program, it is always very hard for us to find the programmer who developed the interface and to solve the bug in time. So my Flink project here is to help the programmers find the bugs and inform them as soon as possible. Therefore, we need to do three things to achieve this goal. Firstly, we need to collect and process those online error logs in real time. We also need to find the programmer who developed the interface. And finally, we need to send them the error logs by email or text message. So this is the whole architecture of my entire Flink project. Let's talk about the first problem, how to collect and process the error logs in real time. Well, we collect the Java logs of each microservice interface by the file bit, and then the file bit will send those logs to one Kafka topic. We only need to use one Flink application to handle the data cleaning, data integration, message sending, to inform those programmers. The logs need to be processed basically at the first. We need to filter out the error logs. We need to initialize these logs in order to get some important information such as the level of the log, the Java class that printed the error log, the time, and the detailed information. Actually, the second problem is pretty tough. That is how to find the programmer who developed the interface. To be specific, we need to figure out which Java class printed the log and to identify which programmer developed this Java class, the interface. Well, in my company, like I said before, we use Java language to build the whole microservice architecture. That means we can get the absolute path of the Java class from the header in that error log. According to the absolute path of the Java class, we can roughly figure out the absolute file path of that class. We can infer the programmer who recently modified the source code of that class through the submission history of the Git. Because we use GitLab to code review, test, and deploy for almost every project. So I wrote a Python script to capture the Git submission information from the GitLab every hour, and I write it into a file, then upload this file, to the HDFS of the Hadoop cluster. At the same time, there will be an SQL script to regularly process the data about the Git history in that file and write the result into a hash table. So the data in this hash table include the absolute path of the Java file, the absolute path of the Java class, and the programmer who recently modified the source code file. And finally, this Flink application will load the data about Git history from the help table into the cache about, let's say, 20 minutes. So this cache could be memory or DB database, which are used by Flink as state backend. So anyway, we only need to use Flink Circle to join the real-time stream of the error log with the data in that cache. And then we can find out who developed the interface and send the error logs to the programmers, and in order to remind them to fix that bug. Well, on the other hand, we can also store these error logs in the help database, so our programmer can use the Impala or the Presto to correlate this data in the hell. While at the same time, we also design and develop some charts, graphs to help those programmers know what is happening in the real production environment. So this is the whole architecture of my entire project. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate that you took the time to be here and listen to my presentation.